We are going live. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. This is something that I've been trying to get back in the habit of doing, but only just now am I back in the habit of doing a weekly live. So we are going to hang out. We are going to have some fun. I'm going to tell you some jokes. Maybe we'll get into something serious. One of the things that I've struggled with my whole life is overthinking, and something that a lot of my clients come to me worrying and thinking about, things that are legitimately things to worry about. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Bear with me a second. I've got my 4K camera, and so I'm kind of enjoying that. So I've recently moved to Chicago. And for those of you who don't know me already, my name is Jesse Coomer, and I am a breath worker and a breath coach. I've been a breath worker professionally since 2016. But one of the things that I have found out is that the reason, of course, I was my own first client, as are most coaches. But the biggest thing that I found out was that people come to me for breath work training, but they really need is mindset coaching. And if you're a coach and you're looking to help people more, you have to understand. And of course, in my book, The Language of Breath, I encourage people not to look at themselves as a mind and a body. And there's a whole thing, we could go into that. But one of the things I notice is that people come to me thinking they need to learn a bunch of breathing techniques. And in reality, what they really need to do is learn how to decipher how they feel. And I know that sounds like, well, we're going to talk about our emotions, and we're just going to have a good cry. And maybe that's actually what you need. Okay. So I will say there have been a few clients of mine that over the years, I'm like, have you tried crying? There are some times whenever that is the correct choice. But in reality, what most of my clients over the years have found the most beneficial is learning to decipher the physiological signaling that their unconscious is trying to provide them. And so this is whenever I say overthinking and jokes, the overthinking that part of it is not a function that you have conscious control over. So a lot of times a person, and you'll see this all over the place, there are very great Instagram feeds. There's amazing speakers out there, and they will provide what I would consider to be poetic reasons why overthinking is ridiculous. And they will cite the Stoics, and they will cite, ancient wisdom and things like that. But and it's awesome. And don't get me wrong, they're not wrong when they say these things. When we talk about the futility of overthinking, this is not incorrect. All right. So I have a course, like an online course that I developed. I never actually launched it. It's available on my website. I just haven't. So when you do an online course, you can launch the course, and what that means is, you basically let people know that it exists. And this is as close to launching it, I guess, as I've ever gotten. It's just literally talking about it. But it's about rumination or overthinking, which has been my biggest struggle throughout my entire life. So for me, overthinking, it's still something I struggle with. It's still something that is a regular thing for me. And it's not something that you can breathe in, breathe out, hold your breath, do this, press up, down, left, right, A, B, select, start. It's not like somehow you can not be a human being anymore. And that comes into stuff we'll talk about here in a minute. But what you can do is, when you start to understand how these processes lead to overthinking, you can start to take an active role in doing something about it. The problem is, if you really don't understand what's happening, no matter what you do, you're probably being guided into a thought process or literally physical actions that make things worse. And this is where ignorance can really hurt us. And all of the positive framing and all of the, the motivational speaking and all those things, while they're not wrong about the logic that they talk about when it comes to, I should say the vast majority of people are not wrong. There's a lot of them that make it seem as though it's something to do with vibrations and things like that. They're wrong. but when it comes down to what is happening, you have an unconscious and a conscious process that are at odds with each other. And this unconscious part of you is guiding you into thinking about things in a conscious way that is not helping you. And so that is quite literally why it is very difficult to get out of an overthinking process. It's very difficult to get out of that rumination zone, because there's a part of you that believes that if you stop thinking about it, something worse is going to happen, right? So whenever something's bothering you, whenever something is keeping you up, that's the most common thing. That's it. I can tell you that probably is the biggest thing that affected me throughout my entire life. It's still something that if I don't watch, it does creep up, is the lack of sleep. Okay, I'm just not getting any sleep. And then what happens, right? The more you are tired, the more problems seem to compound. I think it was Nietzsche that said when we're tired, I'm going to butcher it. This is why I probably should actually have like a teleprompter or something like that. I don't. It's all off the cuff. It's all raw. But Nietzsche did talk about ultimately how when we're tired, all the things that were not big monsters and scary things, they become bigger and scarier and worse. Everything becomes worse. And it's true. It's a matter of when we're tired, we have a core affect that makes everything seem worse. And it's very hard not to see yourself through that core affect. All right. So having said that, that's a bunch of nerd stuff. Do you want to hear about more nerd stuff? Or how about a joke? Now I have a joke that I've been telling. I told it a few times already. And this is, hey, it's Friday. These are some fun times. So here is a dad joke just for sitting around and hanging out with me. So here it comes. So, and it has to do with friendship. So if you're ready for it. So why is it so hard for squirrels to make friends? Because they drive everybody nuts. Okay. All right. So if you're still there, happy Friday. If you don't know me already, welcome to the channel. We're making some changes. Do you remember when this channel was called Midwestern Method? So let me know in the comments. Let me know if you remember whenever I used to call this channel Midwestern Method. 4 years ago this month, I changed the name of this channel just to Jesse Coomer, which is my name. And I've always sort of regretted doing that. And so I think I'm going to change the name of the channel back to Midwestern Method, because this channel is not just like about breath work. And it used to be that I would always talk about Wim Hof stuff. I've really kind of grown out of that phase of my life, and I've moved on to my own philosophy of breath work. And it's not just focus on, okay, let's talk about what breathing does. And if you inhale, this is what happens. If you exhale, this is what happens. I love talking about those things, but I also like talking about other things, and ultimately, why even do all this stuff? I had a client earlier this week, and we were talking about this. He's like, here I am, my nobody else in my family is doing these things. Here I am doing 10 minutes of breathing before I go to sleep, and I'm doing my meditations, and I'm, trying to avoid these certain kinds of, toxins in the food and things like that. And he's like, man, why am I even doing that? And that's a good question. I think we should all ponder, because there does come a point whenever it's like, okay, so why live a good life? And what is a good life? Let me know. What do you think? What is a good life? What are the hallmarks of living a good life? Because is it taking a bunch of ice baths? Is that what constitutes living a good life? Is it doing breath work, or is it doing, physical fitness or things like that? Is that what constitutes a good life? And so, on the one hand, one of the things I often run into with clients is clients who have overcluttered their lives. So I get a lot of different kinds of clients. And if you're interested in this sort of thing, we'll stick around. I get clients that believe that they are hopeless cases. They have never eaten something that's green. They have never exercised. They're smokers. They smoke too much weed. They drink too much alcohol. And most of what we're doing is we're changing habits, and we're trying to help a person to have, a lot of times replacing negative habits with positive habits over time, holding people accountable, using what we know from science and from experience to make those changes happen. Then I also have the clients, on the other hand, who are when they arrive, they already have like 6 or 7 certifications. They've got a breathwork practice, meditation practice, ice bath practice, sauna practice. They do so much time at the gym. They do all fill in the blank diet, right? When it comes to diet, I have recently heard someone say, there's 3 things you don't bring up in polite company: politics, religion, and diet, right? Because people have really hardcore opinions on this. So, what you'll see is a wide spectrum. You'll have some people who are they've never done a positive, healthy thing for them. And it's like, well, it's obvious why you're suffering, right? It's obvious why you're struggling to walk up the stairs or play with your kids. It's obvious. So what we need to do is to make sort of some of these obvious changes. And in the world of breath work, I teach breath workers, right? So, and ultimately I teach teachers. I coach coaches in their development. And a lot of them, even people who don't go to my breathwork school, will reach out to me for advice. And they'll say, Jesse, I've got this client. This client is a nightmare. I can't get any, all these things. And so a lot of times what I do, and and I don't even really advertise this service, but I have my own clients, but I will help people with their clients. So I come in, I'm sort of, maybe it's like, what is that show where the Gordon Ramsay comes in and there's a restaurant that's failing and he's like, what is it? It's raw. And there's this thing, and he yells at everybody, and then suddenly, right? And it's like, what did they call that show where he like fixes the place? I come in and I do that. There's the other one is like this guy who fixes bars. The bar is failing. And then, so I do that for a lot of people. I don't advertise that, but that is something that I do for a lot of coaches. They'll reach out to me and we'll work together to help them get their clients where they should be. Well, one of the most difficult clients for a lot of coaches is the client who already has a lot of health practices, because a lot of coaches look at it as all we need to do is give people these tools, and then that's what makes a person have a good life. Hey, Mark, nice to have you here. Mark Solomon, having a positive outlook in life. Is that your question? Is that what you feel like having a good life is? Is that what you're trying to say? Is having a positive outlook in life? I'd love to hear more from you on that. So, and I'll interrupt my little soliloquy, I guess. I'm just kind of riffing here, guys. It's Friday. We're having some fun. And let's see. I've got some time. So I've got about 30 minutes. We'll see how long we go. But a lot of coaches have the belief that if a person does these actions, right, these things are the thing, these tools, if you just do the tools and you consistently add things, that you're going to be a happier, healthier person. Everything in your life is going to get better because you're doing the things that we know how to do, right? There's this one, the father of one of the fathers of modern psychology, Abraham Maslow. He said that if there's this whole phrase called Maslow's hammer, Maslow, Maslow. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his name. Maybe Maslow. Yeah, Maslow. The hierarchy of needs, right? But he also has, Maslow's hammer, and he says if the only tool that you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail, right? And so what you'll have a lot of times is you'll have people who are coaches, people that are in helper roles. They know how to do certain things, right? So it's like, okay, I am a fitness trainer, and I know how to train a person. So one of my mini certificates, hooray, one of my mini certifications, because I am the type of person who I can't stop, just can't stop. But one of my mini certificates was I became a personal trainer. And so I did a bunch of certificates in like youth fitness and mixed martial arts conditioning. And so I wanted, and a lot of this, again, it came back to I was my own first client and I kept injuring myself. And, but a lot of times a coach will say, okay, I have these skills. These are the things that I know how to teach a person to do. And I know that these things can be beneficial. And a lot of times a person will say, well, because I know that these things can be beneficial, all I need to do is get a person doing these things. And then that's the fix. I fixed them. I cured them, right? But then you get these clients. You will get these clients. And I would imagine maybe somebody here in the audience can relate to this. They're already doing, you may already be doing this, right? Every morning I wake up before the sun gets up. I'm not going to eat until my feeding window. And, but I will take, my supplements, and I'll take an ice bath, and I do a bunch of breath work, and Bar Rescue is the name of it. Harry, thank you. And Mark, that was your answer to a good life. Okay, thank you so much for that. So having just literally having a positive outlook on life is living the good life. That's okay, cool. Well, we'll get back to that. I'm interested in kind of digging deeper into that in just another minute. I want to finish a point that I'm making, and then maybe we can get into it, because I think it leads really, this point that I'm making leads really well into your answer. So thank you so much. Harry, is that Harry Jugpaul? Harry J? Or maybe not, you know what? If it's not, I know who I need to email after this. I think we've lost connection. But if it's not Harry Jugpaul, hey, Harry J, nice to have you here. So, where was I? Oh, yes. So what you'll have happen is a lot of the coaches will, they'll say, Jesse, I've got this guy. He's already doing all the things that I know how to teach a person how to do. He's already doing XYZ breath technique in the morning. He's already doing XYZ, health protocol. He's already doing this thing at this time of day. He's already doing this other thing. And why isn't this person happy? What's wrong? And you might be the same way. I know that I myself got really into every little detail of my life had to be a biohack. Every little detail of my life had to be something out of a Joe Rogan or a Jocko Willink or a lot of these bigger names in the health and wellness world. I know that I really got into that a lot. And what I found was that I felt that by doing these things, I was somehow going to, be happier. I was, it was on the other side of these things where happiness is, or success, or blah, 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 right? And what I found was that it wasn't really like that. Interesting. I still had emotions. I still had problems. I still had stressors. I still had anxieties. I was still a human. I still got sick. That was a big one. I'll never forget, catching my first cold after, getting into doing back when I first got into Wim Hof method. I kind of bought into the whole "you'll never get sick again" and all these things. Cold shower day keeps the doctor away. All these things that my one of my early mentors, Wim Hof, taught, and really leaned into, and I completely bought that. And I caught a cold. I'm like, oh no! But I thought I was doing all the right things. And there's a certain, I think, cultural teaching that, whether it's overt or not, it's that if you do the right things, then you're going to have a result then the right thing will happen. Like it's like, okay, it's kind of like, I don't know if your mom or dad or whomever in your life said, okay, what you need to do, you go to school, you get good grades, right? You go to college, you get a degree. If you do that, then your life will turn out just fine. Or, a lot of these things. And a lot of people in my generation heard those things when we were younger and are epically disappointed with the way that life turned out. And so there's a belief that if I do all these steps, if I follow the directions, if I do sort of what I'm told, and not necessarily that doing what you're told is a bad thing. There are reasons why experts exist, and there's a lot of good reason to have a coach or someone who's guiding you. But like there's this whole thing where it's like, if I just do these things, then I will have happiness, I will have success, I will have peace. And so I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that it's not always the thing. Well, okay, I'll start with the bad news, because a lot of times we like to hear the bad news. Harry, reach out to me. I don't remember where we left off, but I think you were talking about joining the language of breath. Oh, okay. Maybe it's not Harry. I don't know. Reach out to me anyway. Where was I? Okay. So what happens is we will have, good news and bad news. That's where I left off. Okay. So the bad news is that it's not true, right? But the good news is that even though these things don't necessarily bring you happiness, if you approach it's a lot how you approach them, because a lot of what you're doing is you training yourself to put up with disappointment. You're training yourself to put up with aggravation. You're training yourself to do a lot of the work before you do the work. So you're literally preparing yourself for the reality that life is full of pain and life is full of disappointment and aggravation. Okay. And people who act like being disappointed or aggravated or angry are somehow less than, or there's something wrong with you, man, you should never feel anger. Don't listen to them. Anger is a perfectly natural emotion. It's something that there's a very good time and place for it. And a lot of people will say, well, when I'm feeling angry or frustrated, it's because I think the world should be a certain way and it's not. And I know I can't change the world, so I should accept the world for the way it is, or I should change the way there's a lot of these different ways that we come out. And the reality is this: there are some things that should be, but they are not. And it's okay to be angry that they're not. Acting like having an emotion or a expectation is a negative thing. I always hate this. This is one of those things that always irritates me. When people act like having some kind of an expectation, having something like that is is something you should never have expectations, man. Okay, well then why? If I have no expectations, that's pretty difficult to choose a path, right? Because you got to understand, literally, the reason why we do anything is because there's some kind of an expectation, right? There's some kind of like, okay, if I do this, there's some kind of an expectation. Now, disappointment will happen, aggravation will happen, all those things. It's not a reason to give up. But it's just sort of a natural thing, right? What I guess the secret is to remember that that's a natural part of being a human being, right? And so whenever I hear this, and hey, Robbie, much love from the UK, much love to the UK. Tucker, my brother, always laughing, always a smiling guy. I love you, man. Having said that, so when I hear a lot of the people talk online or in this health and wellness space, a lot of the talk almost makes you feel guilty for having feelings. It almost makes you feel bad if you feel bad. Now, there is toxic positivity, and that's one aspect of this, but there's also this quasi-guruship, this I float around on clouds, or at least I feel like I should float around on clouds and have no expectations, no attachments, nothing like that. And I'll tell you this, that is one way. If you were to have no expectations and no attachments in life, yes, you will never be disappointed. Yes, sure, that's one way to do it. You've removed it from the other end. But I don't think that makes a great life. I don't think that is a good life. I think that getting back to Mark says a positive outlook, that's far. I think that's far closer than saying no matter what happens, I'm not going to have any emotion over it. Trying to frame it in a positive light, trying to find the positives, trying to look at every situation as something beyond the way I feel in this moment, because the way we feel in the moment sometimes makes us feel as though we're trapped, or that and a lot of times our emotions do limit how we can see possible other avenues. Sure, those are important things to do. And if you're a breath worker, if you're a coach, or if you're just, a regular person, and that's what coaches and breath workers are, by the way. If they try to make you feel like there's something special, like they've come down from the mountain with some kind of wisdom, they're full of it. I can speak with some authority just because I've been doing this for about a decade. It's experience that's speaking right now, but I think it's incredibly important, because this is something that people did not do when I was starting off. Breath workers, coaches, a lot of the people in this health and wellness space, they would not admit to having bad days. They would not admit to having, there's going to be a sleepless night here and there. You are still a human. And they act like, I just never get mad. I never, whatever. And the funny thing is, I would see these people fly off the handle. Like, here's a funny truth. The people that I have trained with, that I literally became a student of, here I am the student of this person. They're giving me all these platitudes. And this is not just one person. This is not just two people. This is a whole lot of people. And they're giving me all these platitudes, and they're acting like I'm stupid or I'm less than because I let things get to me sometimes. I witness them going off on people or just losing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? I thought you've cured all your trauma. I thought you've done and so this is one of those times where that's why I had to kind of do my own thing. A lot of people wondered why. That's why I had to do my own thing. That's why maybe that's not the reason. The reason why I did my own thing is just because I feel like I found a really good way that I didn't see anybody else doing. But also, Robbie is right. Never meet your heroes. and so what happens is so often you'll hear these platitudes. You'll hear this stuff like and like your anger. When you're feeling angry, like there's something basically you're doing it wrong. You know what? There are things that make me angry that I'm okay with the fact that they make me angry. I am angry that right now there are people who are suffering needlessly. I am angry right now that there are children in foster care who are constantly being abused in ways that I can't say out loud on YouTube because the video would suddenly be rated for adults only. And I know it's happening every single day. And that makes me angry because guess what? There is a way that it should be and there is a way that it is, and it's not that way. And it makes me angry. That is okay. It is okay to feel angry. And anger has done some wonderful things. There's some wonderful things that anger has led to. When there's an injustice and you are upset about it and you move to do something right about it. The problem, so I've made anger sound like this amazing thing. Let's talk about the problem. Okay, there's a problem. Tucker says, I feel awful for my anger and how it affects the people I love. Let's talk about that, because when it comes to anger, the problem with anger, the problem with extreme emotions is that it does hijack our ability to think critically in the moment, right? So the same thing that can move a person to jump in front of a car to save a child or a loved one, that same unconscious you is the same part of you that can be moved to anger and punch somebody in the face and be like, oh my God, what have I done? My life has changed forever and I will never come back from this, right? You have to understand what this is. So research has been done. Actually, I believe there was research in 2008 that was done on how unconscious processes ultimately govern most of our actions and most of how we look at the world. And they actually had brain scans, active fMRI, I believe it was, of a person's brain. And they were able to see that a person was going to make a decision between, I think it was like 7 to 10 seconds before the person even knew they were about to make a decision. Okay, I just want to kind of dive into that. So what that means, before the person was even aware that they were going to make a decision, the decision had already been made. Now, how is that possible, right? That is because most of who we are, most of what we are is unconscious. And what that means, it's not that it's asleep or some, mystical thing. It feels mystical when you touch it. This is what we do in breath work. This is what we do in deep meditation. Sometimes you do drugs and things and you touch it and someone says, oh, you felt this, ooh, right? What you're having happen is you're actually touching the unconscious in maybe not a tactile way, but you're coming in contact with a part of yourself that you're not normally in contact with in such a way. And as a result, it feels mystical and powerful. But this part of you is always there. It's there right now. It's literally, as I'm speaking, it's deciding what you think about it before you're aware of what you think about what I have to say. And but coming back to anger, what that does is it paints the entire world in a certain light, and it makes it feel like that's exactly how it is, and that's how it's always going to be. That's the essence of an emotional response. This is exactly how it is. This is how it's always going to be. Now, it's not just anger. It's also love. I mean, how many times, right? Remember high school? I will love you forever. There's so many times whenever we feel an emotion, and because emotions are what they are, they make us feel as though it's that way and it will never be any other way. Now, imagine what that does to our actions and behaviors. If you're angry about something, if anger comes up and you haven't really worked on working with your emotions, right? And it's not just anger management, right? Yes, there is a way to manage anger and there's a way to manage emotions. I always hate saying the words manage emotions and things. It's you have no choice. Just to make it clear, just so everyone knows, you have no choice but to feel the way that you feel. Your emotions are there. They're outside of your conscious control. So it's a and that's so hard for the world to handle, right? It's so hard for the world to accept that you have no control over the way that you feel. I feel the way I feel. Or I mean, either that or it's licensed for some people, right? For some people, it's licensed to do whatever they want, and that's not. I don't jive with that. That's not something I'm cool with either. The way that you feel is a biological message from your unconscious, based off of what you have learned about the world through what we call implicit learning since the day you were born, and possibly since before you were born. We're still learning more about that. And based off of all of your experiences, especially those that have had emotional imprints, because the ones that affect us the most are the ones that tend to have extreme emotional imprinting, right? So those are the things that will affect the way you see the world the most. And sadly enough, most of those are going to be a negative emotion, and that is a survival mechanism. Our ancient ancestors had to learn to survive. They weren't learning how to be happy. They were learning how to survive. And so negative emotions are there, and they're very strong as survival mechanisms. And if you think about in our ancient past, when we had very small tribes, very small groups of humans, and we were we're very social creatures. We rely on the tribe. If someone were doing something in the tribe, and we're talking the estimates on early humans, we're talking maybe 10 people, maybe 20 people in a small moving tribe together of hunters and gatherers. If one person is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, that affects everybody on a big level. So anger was a thing that, okay, if there's something, like if the way it is not the way it's supposed to be, right? If everyone's behavior isn't the way that it's supposed to be, that can eliminate that. That's not just bad because I'm upset that I'm holding you to a standard, right? That's terrible for everybody because everybody could die, right? Someone's stealing from the food, or somebody's, beating somebody up. Like that is a survival thing for everyone. And so we've developed these emotions in a way that's like, okay, this is really important. Okay. Having said that, when we look at how these emotions emerge and how we often have a difficulty with managing how we behave as a result of those emotions, that's when we cause ourselves problems, right? One of the groups that I work with a lot of different groups. So I work with first responders. I work with people in drug addiction recovery. I work with CEOs, managers, athletes, people in just a lot of these different walks of life. And you have to understand, everyone assumes, well, of course, there's emotions in so-and-so's life, but if emotions are getting to you in this career or in this life or this whatever, then it's a bad thing, or that shouldn't be happening. I'm sorry, I don't care what you do. Your emotions are what pushes you through the world. Your emotions are what makes you make the decisions that you make. It's kind of like that. If a person says, where do you want to eat, Chinese or pizza, right? Those are your choices. And you have to really think hard to say, well, actually, I'm looking for Mediterranean tonight. Actually, that sounds delicious. Anybody want to go out to eat? Let's do Mediterranean. Anyway, gosh, that does sound good. I want to get like some pita bread, some of those spiced meats. What always kills me is that they have the incredibly strong coffee at these places, and I always want it, but I'm having dinner, so it's like I will never get to sleep tonight, and sometimes I just let that happen. Anyway, so when it comes to things like emotions, or I guess I should say, when it comes to emotions like anger and things like that, that do have a lot of negative consequences, we have to understand that it's not necessarily anger's fault. It's the fact that we have some work to do. It's not like you're broken or there's something wrong with you. It's just that what we need to do is start to become a little bit more in touch with our emotions. Mark says, my subconscious just took control and signed me up for your Patreon. Way to go, subconscious. Good work. Well, Mark, welcome to the Patreon club. This is, hey, by the way, if you are looking for a great way to spend $5 or more, there's other tiers. This month we're doing I'm really bad at promoting my stuff. So here, I'm going to take a moment to promote the Patreon club because we're doing a breathwork challenge this month. So what happens is we've got this folder. So when you sign up for a Patreon club, you get access to like literally over 100 guided sessions. Like I've been doing this now almost 5 years. It's crazy, right? I've almost been doing this Patreon club 5 years. There's people that have been with me for the whole time. There's people from all over the world, and we get together once a month on a Zoom call, and we do breath work together, but you get access to the full catalog. So what we're doing this month is a challenge. So I've taken all the greatest hits from the past year. So from the greatest hits of 2024, I've sprinkled in some other greatest hits from earlier on in the past years. And every day, all of us are doing these sessions together. Yes, there's one on Christmas. Yes, there's one on my birthday, which is coming up the 18th. So I was born exactly 1 week before Christmas. And so if you want to know what that does to you, that means your parents are like, Jesse, you're really kind of expensive this time of year. This month was such an expensive month for my parents. Today is my sister's birthday. The 18th is my birthday, and then of course Christmas. So like they get off the hook really all year long, and then come December they've got to ante up. So so thanks, Mom and Dad. Anyway, if you want to join the Patreon club, this is a lot of fun, and you get extra access to me. You can also get access to there's a special tier where you can ask me to speak about anything you want me to talk about, and every month on a YouTube live, I will talk about that topic. Whether it's answering a question or just discussing a topic you want me to just dive in deeply about. Maybe it's this stuff that we've been talking about now. Maybe it's something else. You get to decide. So far, most of the people, they direct message me because they feel like it's personal. And the good news is I'm not going to out you for your personal stuff. I generally, if it's something that a person said, hey, this is a little personal, what I do is I talk about that as a topic. So or if sometimes a person says, hey, mention me on the broadcast, I will mention you by name. So let's see here. So, hey, welcome, Mark. I know you're going to have a great time, and you're going to continue to have a great time if you've already been a part of it. So, okay. So guys, I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. This is a lot of fun. I like doing these. I haven't been able to do these in a while. It's just been a crazy time, and I'm really thankful for this audience, and look forward. We're going to be changing the name of the channel back to Midwestern Method. I was there's a whole story as to why I changed it from Midwestern Method into Jesse Coomer. But Midwestern Method, the reason why I'm going to go back to that is because we're going to talk about just a lot of different things. Basically, the reason why you would want to do any of those health practices at all. Whether you're a person who doesn't do anything healthy, or you're on the other side of that spectrum and you can't help it, but you do everything, like every little thing healthy. The big thing for me, what I've really learned is that we have to find our why. And that's not something you can just instantly say why. You have to check in with yourself multiple times. It goes back to that unconscious you. You cannot just say, am I happy with my life? Am I satisfied? Literally, your unconscious will not let you rationally think that through. Just so you know, I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen. You cannot rationally decide if you're living a good life just all in one instant. You sort of have to ask yourself that multiple times and check in with yourself and start to look for a pattern. Eventually one will emerge and you can start to find out the answer. It's a strange thing being a human. Stick around this channel. We'll be making more videos on this. I'll be doing more lives. I'm going to try to do more Friday afternoon lives are kind of my favorite thing. So it's something I really do look forward to. If you haven't joined the Breath Club, the Patreon Club is the place to be. Thanks for joining, Mark, and anybody else who has already joined. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. It's always good to see, even if it's just your name and a picture, Tucker. I am sending hugs to you. And I will see you guys next week is the YouTube live for the Patreon Club. So join now. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.